one of the interesting things about 1 second every day is like our users are capturing moments that they specifically wouldn't share on social media. And so they never they're really doing it for themselves. They're really just keeping a diary for themselves. And so they'll mash it, they'll watch it because like you said, they're like reflecting on it.
Welcome to Digital Mindfulness. I'm your host, Lawrence Ampofo. Today we have on the show the director, entrepreneur and speaker, Cesar Kuriyama. Cesar is the founder of the successful mobile app 1 Second Every Day. You should listen to this episode if you want to find out more about the ways social media can be used mindfully to improve the quality of your life, the importance of the seemingly mundane moments, and how to prepare for a TED Talk. But before all that, welcome to Digital Mindfulness, where we bring together the best thought leaders from around the world to teach you how to be your best self in an age of digital distraction and information overload. If you like what we talk about on the show, then come and hang out with us in London at the Digital Mindfulness Live Conference on the 24th and 25th of May. Over 2 days, we'll have workshops, keynotes, and plenty of opportunities to connect with the digital mindfulness community, leading experts and companies that are at the forefront of improving health, well-being, design, communication, and collaboration in this age of digital distraction and information overload. It's going to be excellent. So if you're interested in coming at all, email me on lawrence@digitalmindfulness.net. Looking forward to meeting you in London. Welcome to Digital Mindfulness, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really, really excited to hear about you and your perspectives and just this really interesting life you've had. So welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
So Cesar, let's start with you just giving an introduction to the audience, not just about 1 Second Every Day, but also how you came to be working on this project.
Sure. I'll try to do the short version. I was born in Peru, but I grew up in New Jersey since I was 8. I was kind of a math and science nerd, but really got into doing my little own kind of animated shorts in high school, which led to ending up in art school instead of in computer science school. And then when I got to art school, I just fell in love with not just animation, but with everybody else was doing with, photography and film and design. And I took classes in everything. I couldn't get enough of it. And I ended up working in advertising for a long time after school. My desire to stay close to my family kind of kept me here in New York. And that, it was short-lived, the excitement of working in ad land here in New York. And suddenly I realized that I was spending most of my mid-20s working nonstop and just working 100-hour work weeks all the time. I never had weekends off, or not never, but I didn't know when I would have a weekend off. I couldn't really plan ahead. It's like, it's Friday night and we'll find out if we can take the weekend off or not. And sometimes we couldn't. And so I was looking for a way to essentially escape, but I didn't really know what my exit strategy was other than, this is what I've been doing and this is what I'm, appear to be good at. Do I go back to school? Do I didn't know what to do. And I saw this TED Talk by a fellow alumni of Pratt Institute, where I went to art school, called The Power of Time Off, while I was sitting at work one day. And he talked about how he takes a year off every 7 years. He closes down his studio here in New York every 7 years. He gives all his employees like a year off to go creatively do whatever they want. And how what they go out and do in the real world, just because they want to, not because it's for a client, kind of ends up being like the catalyst for all the things they work on for the next 7 years. And I thought, man, that's the plan. I need to buy myself time. And so I looked at my, I immediately, as soon as the talk ended, I'm sitting there at work and I grab a sheet of paper and a pen and I start jotting down what my expenses are and where I can cut costs and try to figure out how much money would I need to save in order to live in New York City for a year without working. So I ended up going up to accounting. after kind of made some some guesstimate numbers, and I said, hey, half my paycheck be put into this account that I won't touch for 2 years. And for 2 years, essentially, I was living off half of the money that I was making and just making it work by having my friends buy me drinks or cutting cable or whatever I could do to survive without spending, the typical New Yorker, $10 cocktail, money. Um, and then when I turned 30, I quit my job. I had the money saved up to take a year off. And leading up to this year off that I was about to embark on, I realized that I wanted some sort of a project to remember that year off by. And I've had this lifelong frustration with my memory my whole life. And I wanted to do something about it, but I didn't know what it would be. I started thinking about, all sorts of ideas and limitations. And I think that I am. My friends would probably disagree, but I would say that I think I'm inherently lazy, and I'm always fighting my laziness. And so whatever project I came up with, I knew it needed to be so easy that even I couldn't get too lazy to do it. But at the same time, because of my background in animation, I knew that I was pretty good. I had a pretty good understanding of timing and anyways, so it all kind of led to this project that I called 1 second every day, which was essentially going to be a way for me to capture my year off 1 second per day. And at the end of the year, I would have this 6-minute video that would essentially allow me to quickly and easily in the future kind of get a bird's eye view of an entire year of my life. And it wasn't until just a couple of weeks after I started that I realized what a positive impact it was having on my day-to-day life. And that, after just a couple of weeks, I realized that I should not do this for just a year, but I should do this for the rest of my life. It takes me literally 1 second per day to do it. And at this point, I've been doing it for, I'm about to hit 6 years next week, in 2 weeks. And I've not forgotten a day of my life in 6 years. And it has continued to encourage me to make the most of every day. It ended up I ended up speaking at the TED conference at the end of that year off, like 7 days after I turned 31, essentially.
How was that?
The most nervous I've ever been in my entire life. This day, I think.
You don't look it at all.
Oh man, on the bright side, I couldn't eat that entire week. Every time I would just get nauseous. Every time I came up, there's all the most amazing food ever is all around me at all, like for a week, and I'm just like, I can't stomach anything. Yeah, I was a mess. I was a mess. I couldn't. I didn't really enjoy it that first time because I was the 63rd of 65 speakers of that week. So I spent the entire week just a nervous wreck. Meanwhile, like all the other speakers that I met, like during the first couple of days, after they spoke, I mean, they had the time of their lives. They're just walking around. Everybody's like, wanting to talk about their thing, and they couldn't be happier about being done with the talk. Meanwhile, I'm just miserable, but yeah, I mean, at the same time, it's just kind of the most amazing, one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had and ever will have. So,
gosh, I think that whole experience of being on TED and everything about it is one whole show in and of itself. But I want to go back and talk about this whole act of, I guess, this discipline of recording 1 second of your life every day. And yeah, I just wonder if you can tell us just how important this act is, not so much the products, but the act of just actually going into your phone and recording that 1 second of your life.
Well, on the one hand, as far as my frustration with my memory, one thing that I would think about when I was about to turn 30 and about to start this year off from work is how I was about to turn 30, and when I was looking back at my life at 20, at that point, it already was kind of blurry and frustrating. Like I was in college. I know I know all the big things, right? I know I'm in college. I know I'm a sophomore. I know I'm, in life, and I can remember a bunch of specific times, and I can sit here and tell you stories about my sophomore year of college, like no problem. But what my day to day life was like at that moment in time was already kind of fading away in the same way that if I try to look back at my time at high school, and then if I go back farther back, it keeps getting more and more difficult. And some of these times are some of the best times of my life. And I didn't want to turn 40 one day, and vaguely remember, like, oh yeah, that year off I had, yeah, yeah, like, and just kind of sort of piece it together if I really tried hard in my head, and so I just didn't want that to happen. And so that's kind of where my frustration was. Uh, and I don't think it's anything. I don't think it's like because I have any memory problem or anything like that. I just think in general, it's just that maybe it's because I'm nostalgic. I think I do like to sit back and reflect on where I've been and try to think back on the kind of person I used to be in the past. I think at any one of these gigantic, moments in time, like high school and college being an example, like the person who I was that for my first day of high school and who I was on my last day of high school, I'm a completely different human being. Um, I would say the same about college. I was this like unartistic math science guy going to the school with like where all the best artists from all the high schools came together in one place, and I just feel so unworthy and inadequate. And on a day-to-day basis, the struggles that I was going through on my freshman year of college, where I just felt like I didn't belong there. Um, all that is stuff that I think is very important for me to like look back on and think about. And I don't want to get to a point someday where that's difficult to do because I just like I've just kind of lost a lot of it. Uh, but as far as the importance of it, I think when when I think back on very specific days early on in my recording of a second per day. I specifically remember there's 2 days in the TED Talk in the first like month or so, 2 months, where it says "Whoops, I forgot," because I, uh, I just forgot. Those are the first 2 times, and the only 2 times that I ever forgot to record a moment. And I know exactly why I forgot to record a moment. And so, in some respects, I actually didn't forget those days. I literally did nothing. I just sat at home and scrolled Facebook all day. You know, and that was a lesson in realizing that you don't really only get the itch to capture a moment, like take a photo, take a video, when something interesting or awesome is happening in front of you. You don't get that itch when you're sitting around in front of Facebook all scrolling all day. And it made me it was just like kind of a kick in the butt for me, where I realized that I could and should always find a way to make every day notable in some way, shape, or form, and it doesn't have to be really complicated or any. I have to go skiing or something every day. It's not about excitement. It's just about I could jump on Skype with an old friend I haven't seen in a year. For 5 minutes just to catch up quickly. You can always make time for little things like that. And so. It's it just having to record something per day, and it's become like brushing my teeth for me, obviously, at this point. But it has taken on a sort of symbolism for me, as far as let's make sure that today matters in some way.
That's a great story. I'm wondering, Cesar, did the mundane moments then, like brushing your teeth, like just kind of walking outside, did they become more important to you as you started to record yourself every single day?
Absolutely. I think this is something that comes up with our 1 Second Every Day app users all the time, and all the emails we get on a daily basis, is this idea that at first, what tends to happen, like the kind of journey that somebody who starts doing 1 second every day kind of seems to go on, is they want to make every second awesome, or unique and cool. And once they've been doing it for a while, um, you kind of realize that what you're kind of seeing with 1 second every day is, like there's there's all these things that already exist out there to share your day, right? Like Instagram and Snapchat stories and Instagram stories now and all that stuff. And 1 second every day is really more about a bird's eye view of your life. And when you see, for example, a year go by, and on a particular day you record something mundane, and then you record something mundane throughout it, but you get this. But when you see it as a whole, you realize that those mundane moments are and more often than not tend to be uh, more special than the stuff that you think is the most special stuff, because it's highly more. It's in some ways it can be more reflective of your actual day to day life than the highlight reel. One of the interesting things about 1 second every day is that you know it's something. It's a place where you can actually put those moments. There are a lot of moments in your life that are not Instagram worthy. They're not for fit. That, like, no, it's who, like, let's just say today you just kind of, like, sat around and you made some soup, and you record a moment of you making soup, and you're probably not going to put, some people do, but, like, it's not all right. It's not necessarily a moment that you would share with your network, um, and those little moments that tend to not end up on social media, the little everyday moments of your life that aren't necessarily that interesting, or that interesting to other people, I should say, are kind of end up making up what some people would say, like, a more honest view of kind of your day to day life, as opposed to just like a highlights reel that you tend to get on Instagram and Facebook.
I think that whole thing, everything that you're talking about in terms of celebrating the mundane, is just so important because, as we all know, there are so many studies that just show how damaging it is when people constantly strive to be perfect online, right? To post content that has to be shareable and that has to, because it exists forever. Online, it's always going to be searchable. But with something like 1 second every day, it's almost like this celebration of not just the mundane, but what our lives actually are like, and that they actually are worth recording and worth celebrating.
I was just going to bring up kind of an anecdote to that. Like, it's just, there's a multiple reasons for why I started doing 1 second every day, but one of them, to kind of to your point, is I used to. I used to be like, I didn't used to be like this, right? I remember leading up to the last vacation that I took before I quit my job. I went to Ireland, and and then at the time when I would go on vacation, I would take so much photographic and video equipment with me, and I would capture so much stuff. I'd end up with a hard drive full of stuff that I never had time to look at. And I remember specifically this one moment that kind of became a big deal in my life was, we were kind of in this beautiful place with the cliffs of Moher, and the sun was kind of starting to set. And I was trying to take like a good photograph of it. And I set up my tripod. I spent 15 minutes trying to take a good photograph of this thing. Meanwhile, my buddy, who's my co-founder, Shaunik, in 1 second every day, he's just like he's just sitting there watching it. He's just enjoying it. And so I spent 15 minutes trying to, like, get this photo, and it ended up looking like crap. It doesn't look like anything. It's like not even, share worthy. Like, it's just. And then I thought to myself, why didn't I just enjoy the sunset for 15 minutes? What was the point of this photograph? Was it like, I was trying to figure out was it because I wanted to share it on Facebook and get likes? Was that my purpose? Like, and I realized that I don't want that to be my purpose. And even if I don't know if that was or wasn't my purpose, but I don't want that to be my purpose. And my purpose is really just to, like, I realize, in a sense, with 1 second every day, is to have a visual, like some sort of a trigger to remind me of a moment. And in that sense, I don't need to capture everything left and right. I just need to capture it enough. Like, what is my balance? And so, 1 second every day is somewhat of me trying to find my balance of my use of technology a bit. So if I go to a party, I'll take I'll grab a little second and then put my phone away, and then all right, I'm here. I'm gonna enjoy conversations and hang out.
So, I mean, I think you've said like half of the story now about the app and about 1 second every day. But after TED, what did the project become? And I think more importantly, how did it become so important to so many people?
Sure. So the number one thing people commented on when the 1 second every day video went viral, and it went viral as soon as I mean I literally I put it live on Vimeo, I think, right as I left my hotel room to go do the talk at TED. I thought, well, this is highly unlikely to quote unquote leak, before I talk in like an hour. Because the whole point was I was like premiering it at TED or whatever. But and it got Vimeo staff picked, and then it kind of went off to the races from there. And then it ended up on Reddit and this and that. But the number one thing people commented was, "I'm starting mine. I'm going to do this too. I'm going to do this." And I did it on Final Cut Pro. And I know how to I make videos, so that's easy for me, relatively easy for me. The harder part was just kind of like video management, creating like ways to manage all the content. But I realized this is not an easy project for anybody to take on, anyone who's not a video editor. So I had this idea even throughout the first year of like, what would this look like as an app? And so I kept thinking about that. And once I saw everybody's comments, I thought, well, I have to do that. I have to do this. I have to try to build an app out of this. And that's a whole another long journey, but it was hard. I started by Googling, how do you make an app? I have zero experience in making an app. So I literally started from square one and, buying friends coffee, asking questions. I have no idea what I'm doing. I would meet with developers who would give me prices that made me just say, well, I guess I should give up because I'll never be able to afford doing this. And eventually, luckily, I did find, after a couple of months of searching, I did find some developers who believed in the idea, believed in me, and said, we want to be the guys who make this, And they took a shot at me, and they gave me, we came up with some, with like a way to afford it that actually made it seem feasible. But even then, I couldn't really afford it. So I basically used up the rest of my savings to get the project moving, and then I launched a Kickstarter to fund the finishing the app essentially, and that ended up being we ended up getting the most backers ever for an app on Kickstarter.
Awesome.
Over 11,000 people backed it,
Awesome.
and then that kind of went viral again. We got a lot of press for it, and we were able to launch it. We just had our 4-year anniversary like a month ago. We launched it in January of 2013, and we were like, we made it free for like 24 hours, and we were like right next to Instagram, and it was all very exciting, except like we went from 50 beta testers to like 50,000 users in one day, and all of a sudden you were getting 1,000 emails about things not working, and we spent months putting out fires, and it was a rocky couple of years, ups and downs. Some amazing things happened, such as we had partnerships with big brands like Pepsi, and we were in a movie called Chef that a lot of people have seen at this point. And a lot of people assume that that's like an app made up for the movie, because I think people are like, oh yeah, Facebook, Twitter, Vine, yeah, we know that, and then 1 second every day, and they're like, oh, that must be made up, but yeah, Jon Favreau, he saw my TED talk. He was using the app, and he kind of emailed me and said, like, I have an idea for how to write this into a movie I'm writing, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
Cool.
yeah, that, I was already such a gigantic fan. I mean, there are no better circumstances in the world for everything that happened in that sense, right? He's like one of my favorite filmmakers. Then he sends me the parts of the script where he wrote it in, and I'm like, I can't imagine a better use of this app in a movie. Um, and yeah, for like 2 years I was trying to do everything myself, like with some part-time development, and I was like trying to keep like 50 dishes from falling as I was trying to spin them all at the same time, and brought in Shaunik. I was able to convince Shaunik, my co-founder, to quit his job finally and work with me full time as opposed to just here and there. And long story short, today we're seven, growing. We're doing well. We're cash flow positive. We're hiring. We're getting close to 2 million downloads. If we haven't hit it already, we should probably check on that. And yeah, we have a big plan of attack for 2017, and everything's continues to be moving in the right direction for us. And overall, I think we're at a high level. We're trying to help people, live a better life and find a better balance with their use of technology. And so we think we can do a lot of stuff that just goes beyond the second.
I think that's great. And one of the things that I really noticed about 1 Second Every Day is that it's not a sticky app. It's not an app that hijacks my attention and forces me to look at notifications or buzzes in my pocket or anything like that. But it's like you want me to spend almost like the least amount of time possible, like 1 second, to record where I am. And it sounds like this act of just entering the app and using it very quickly just grounded you. It sounds like a mindful app. Like it brings you into the present moment, like lets you know exactly where you are, with whom you are, and then you can just take your phone out and then be with the people you're meant to be, or in the place that you're meant to be.
Absolutely. It's funny because what, an investor, for example, wants to see, and one of the reasons, this is one of the reasons why we've never taken, or we've never taken investor money. Not that we won't, but most of the time what they're looking for is, oh, like they're addicted to this thing. Oh, they're on it all day. They're engaging nonstop with this, and that's not how we measure our success. Our success is we measure our success by how much value can we give to a person with the littlest amount of engagement possible. How to like maximize that value. And I mean, for example, and this is the kind of thing that is awesome, both awesome and bad in some way respects for us from a numbers perspective. But I remember I met this. I had like a meetup with some users. I just wanted to like kind of ask them questions and learn some stuff about how they use the app. And this guy's like, oh man, like this is my favorite app. Like I've been doing it for 2 years. Like, like I love it. And he, so this is a guy who's been with us for 2 years. He says it's the most important app on his phone, but he's only opened up the app like 3 times ever. And the reason for that is because we don't, unlike like a Snapchat, for example, we don't force you to use the video. You don't have to record the video from the app. You can just record it from the built-in iPhone or camera.
Cool.
Which is like the fastest way to just capture a moment is just to like swipe left or right on your home screen, and then you're right at the camera. Then you can record something and put your phone away. You're done. And so what he does is he records every day, religiously. But then on December 31st, he goes in and he binge selects all his moments, makes the video, shares it, and that's it. And he doesn't have to, he doesn't need us until next year. And so in some way, shape, or form, that's like numbers wise, we don't even know he exists from like an analytics standpoint. But at the same time, I'm really proud and happy that he he like, and this is not like the normal user behavior. He's kind of like a edge case. He's not how most people use the app, but it is awesome to know that somebody like him can get that value without without spending a lot of time on a day-to-day or weekly or monthly basis, kind of working on the project.
So if the guy that we're talking about is an edge case, I'm really interested to know if the app has had the same, or rather the practice of using the app has had the same effect on normal people that have downloaded it as it's had on you, right? If the profound effect that you felt has been felt by other people using it, or if it's just the edge cases.
Yeah, the most interesting and awesome trend that we've seen in the past, I would say year, maybe over a year, is that more and more people are looking back at their life once a month or at the end of the month. So February 1st, for example, um, every New Year's is a gigantic time for us. It's when the majority of our users share their 1 second everyday video on their social channels, which drives a ton of traffic to us. But what's becoming more and more of a trend for us is people sharing like their month in their 30 seconds. This was January, and like that. It's awesome in many respects. I love that. It's also worth mentioning, right, that like a lot of our users don't share, which is great. Like in many respects, like they feel comfortable. One of the interesting things about 1 second every day is like our users are capturing moments that they specifically wouldn't share on social media. And so they never they're really doing it for themselves. They're really just keeping a diary for themselves. And so they'll watch it because like you said, they're like reflecting on it. And then that's it. And then it's like they either trash it or save it and put their camera roll, but they don't often don't share it. And so it's a really interesting thing to see that our like kind of like the 30 day seems to just be this perfect amount of like 30 seconds is a short amount of time, but a month feels like a significant amount of time. And so there's an interesting balance there, right? Like even 6 minutes to look back on a year, you're not going to do that super often because 6 minutes in today's day and age is a big commitment to people. But 30 seconds is not that big a commitment, and a month is a very significant chunk of time. And I think whenever you look back, even at a span of just a month in 30 seconds, you get these feelings. I don't know how to describe it, but it's this kind of out of body experience, at least for me sometimes, where it's I think sometimes the way that I'll describe it is like I can feel time, which is like a very difficult thing to perceive often.
Oh, I mean, that literally was going to be my next question. Like over the past 6 years, because our memories are notoriously selective, right? We filter stuff out that we think is unimportant, and we kind of reflect on the things that we think are important. But if you've actually got it on your phone and you can look back over the last 6 years, like in ways that you can share, how have you changed in 6 years, would you say? And particularly like with this conscious diarizing of your life.
Well, one of my favorite things, I just had a coffee with one of the first guys who ever wrote about 1 second every day, and we were kind of reflecting on the past 5 years or so since I gave the talk and stuff, and he wrote something that always stuck with me. He said he wrote. When Caesar's life flashes before his very eyes, will it be his own director's cut? I was like, that's a great one. Yeah, when so maybe this is an example of something that I often try to talk about to people who kind of are thinking about or asking me about some of this stuff is uh, going back to what I was mentioning, right, about Ireland uh, and maybe kind of ruining a moment to try to capture a moment. And how much I've changed since then, and and I would say it was kind of a bit of a journey from even when I first started 1 second every day. But some of the least interesting moments in my life are or the sorry least uh, beautiful or whatever, like most insanely mundane images that you might find in my 1 second everyday videos of the years are sometimes the most significant to me. So, when somebody looks back at let's just say someone's watching my TED talk and they see a second of a sunset and it's pretty and it's like, yeah, that might, it's pretty, it's beautiful, it's a beautiful little moment. I was with a friend, I was hanging out, I was by the beach, the sun was setting, it was pretty. Meanwhile, there's like a moment that comes before that where I literally record the side of a wall. It's the least interesting moment of the entire video. It's just the side of a wall. And anybody watching that moment might think to themselves, "Oh, that must have been a really uneventful, boring day," because I literally recorded essentially nothing. But uh, what I did was I had this really important, impactful conversation with a loved one, and we were both in tears. And when that ended, obviously, I'm not going to take my camera out during that moment. But as I was, when I left the room and I was walking away, I just recorded something. I just recorded the side of the wall at that moment, which looks like plain nothing, just because I knew that would be enough for me to like make that connection. I call it a secret code. I call it I have secret codes throughout my video
Cool.
that are meant to be something that only I would understand. And it's there as like almost like a breadcrumb trail thing, that because of that little moment, I've not forgotten that conversation ever, and I never want to forget that conversation. It was very important. And so I think that that's something that, I never would have done at the beginning, like that kind of something like that came out of the project. And so, I don't know, I'm grateful for some of the things that some of the mental shifts that I've had since 6 years ago when I first started, that I think are kind of connected to, going on this, this ride journey, whatever you call it.
Would you say, Cesar, that you're more respectful of time in general, like both yours and other people's?
Respectful is interesting choice of words for that. I would probably use another word. I would probably use something closer to I don't know. I don't know what the right word is. But I think I'm just hyper aware of time at all times. I don't I don't want to ever take it for granted, and I think it's helped this entire thing has helped me helped me come to terms with the good and the bad, right, of time, right? Like on the one hand, it's like, oh my God, it feels like 6 years ago, happened so quickly. Time, slow down. But on the other hand, if time was really, if we perceive time to be going really slowly and like, oh, like whatever, like I probably wouldn't care that much if I was on Facebook 2 or 3 days in a row scrolling through my feed. I'd be like, whatever. There's so much time. Who cares? But I think instead, whenever I watch any significant portion of my life playback, such as 2 or 3 months or whatever, it only ever makes me think that the thing that I've been putting off, I need to get on it, like ASAP.
I love this discussion of time and the way that this app, this kind of social media app, can help you just think more deeply about not just your time, but other people's. It almost sounds like just not even the app, but just the act of recording your life every single day has given you a new sense of mission. I mean, you sound incredibly calm and measured, and yeah, it just sounds like this has had such like a great impact and effects on you. And it sounds like that new respect of time that you have has just made you, like you said, more like hyper aware, like more aware that even the mundane moments are incredibly important.
Yeah, we have a. I was just right before we got on started chatting. I was emailing with there's a research team in the UK and a separate research team, or a separate researcher. One of them is a team, one of them is a researcher down in DC, and they're both they both got in touch a long time ago, and they've been working on research about how 1 second every day might be helping people. And so one of them is approaching it from happiness, like
Cool.
could 1 second every day be helping people live a happier, more calm, more like more less stressful or whatever life, and they're going to have control groups, and they're really excited. They've seen, basically it's based on like how they feel it's impacted them, and they think that they can prove that it would impact a lot of other people. And then the other, the one researcher down in DC, she was at MIT when she first got in touch with me, but she's been doing these experiments where she's connecting like a brain scanner essentially, as a person is watching their life play back before their very eyes through 1 second every day, and seeing what's happening in the brain as somebody's just kind of watching their life like pass by. And she's so far has some really promising results and theories on how, from a standpoint of like, can 1 second every day actually help you not forget a day of your life? And it seems it's possible, because because you can look back at such a long span of time so quickly, you can actually keep these memories from sinking away. You can kind of bringing them back up to the surface a bit. So it's it's man, like I would never tell to somebody like, hey, you should do 1 second every day, it'll make you happier. But I think I definitely, like you said, right, it's not medicine. It's just and I don't even think it's necessarily 1 second every day is to credit. I think just 1 second every day is the catalyst to maybe have somebody say, hey, I already recorded something earlier, and maybe I'm just keep my phone in my pocket. Like now I'm just going to be more present, and that in turn makes them, they realize at the end of that day, like, hey, man, I'm glad I wasn't like, on my phone that whole time, and they don't necessarily realize why they may have had a better night that night or something. But I think, I know in my own life right now, with everything happening in politics, I'm constantly in a state of like, I want to be informed, but the more I'm like informing myself, the more I'm like, just it's killing me. And I don't know. I can't figure out my balance for staying active and involved in this climate here right now in New York, but at the same time, like, not depressing myself like on a daily basis. I'm a work in progress, man. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out my balance for things.
Cool. Mind you though, I mean, just from the success that you've had with this whole journey, I bet you couldn't see that coming when you maxed your savings out. Or could you?
No, not at all. Man, yeah, like I said, really rocky times here and there. There was yeah, there were times where I thought, it was over.
Oh man.
Yeah, I was just on another podcast talking about just like the entrepreneurial stories, that like the unsexy stories of entrepreneurship.
Mm.
And I talked about this time where this guy kind of like launched like an app just like mine, and based on my TED, he got his funding through by showing my TED talk to investors.
Oh.
And luckily, like he kind of designed it from like an outside in perspective, like, oh, I should need to make an app that makes videos like this. Like I approached it from like an inside out perspective of like, okay, I've been doing this for a year. Here's what I wish existed. And so his never took off, but for like a month, I thought, well, what's the point? Like this guy, beat me to the punch essentially. But turned out it wasn't a very good app. But there was I completely ran out of money before the app could come out. I was literally everything, all my accounts were at like, $100 or something. I couldn't, I had to sell. The only thing that I had left was I had my Apple stock that I bought when I got my first job when I was like 24, and I got my first iPod, my video iPod.
Yeah.
And I was like sneaking off during the day to watch like 15 minutes of Lost, because I got addicted to watching Lost. And I was like, man, this thing is amazing. And it was years before an iPhone came out, and it was my first job, and for the first time in my life, I had like an extra $1,000, like, and I'm like, wow, I have extra money for the first time in my life. All my bills are paid, blah blah blah. Like, I should put this into something useful, and so I put it into Apple, and I just left it there and forgot about it. And selling that stock was like kind of helped me get to like barely helped me like pay off rent and get to like launching the app. That was the college loans were coming in. I was like, paying minimums on my credit card. I mean, I was so stressed out from thinking I made a huge mistake.
So from your initial thought of, I'm going to create the whole thing 1 second every day, to now, it's been 6 years, right?
I mean, to be honest, I think it's it'll be 6 years since I started recording 1 second every day. My birthday is on the 20th. So it's like in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, 10 days ish. But technically I actually started recording right around now. I recorded for like 14 days or so before my birthday, just to build the habit, to help build the habit. So I actually have that somewhere. But anyways, so it's been 6 years since I started. It's been 5 years since the TED Talk. It's been 4 years since the app launched. It's been, I say, 2 years since I finally like realized I couldn't do this alone, and brought in my co-founder. And ever since, like without him, I'd be screwed, because I would have at some point I would have just collapsed from trying to do everything myself. So yeah, it's been it's been that long.
Wow.
So,
Cesar, what would you say is the most, in this hyper-connected, digitally distracted age, what would you say is the most important human trait, and how do we cultivate that?
It's the most important human trait. I feel very strongly about curiosity. I feel like if I keep trying to dig and dig and dig and dig, at least for my on a personal level, and what I see in other people and what I see in the world, like I think a sense of curiosity is like priceless. The problem is I don't know if there is a way to cultivate it. I've struggled with that with conversations with friends. Like, is that something that you are born with, or is that something that that you can kind of work on, and or maybe there's an experience you have and it kind of like sparks a sense of curiosity. I don't know, but I feel like I've generally always been curious, and I like learning about things that I don't know about, and I like asking questions, and um, I like to go into deep dives on Wikipedia or something, and be like, huh, I like,
Yeah.
and I think that leads to realizing how, like, slowly piecing together how everything's connected. You start making connections between one thing and the other, and you realize, there's just kind of, the more you learn about one thing, the more you kind of learn about everything else. Um, so yeah, curiosity, man. I wish I could just like sprinkle it all over the place if I could.
That's a great analogy. I can actually see that. Here's some curiosity dust. Cesar, unfortunately, we've come to the end of the interview. Where can people find out more about you and your work?
Um, Man, I have a really old website that I don't have time to do anything to, called just my name, CesarKuriyama.com.
Yeah.
I apologize in advance. It looks like web, 1.5. But there's some stuff in there from, my past working in advertising, and even or the very beginning of 1 Second Everyday stuff. I'm pretty active on Facebook, and I consume a lot of Twitter, but I don't tweet a lot. But I respond to everybody pretty much. So, I see everything. And so, yeah, I'm happy. I'm always happy to engage with anyone, anywhere, in any way, shape, or form.
Awesome. Well, Cesar, thanks so much for sharing your story and sharing everything about 1 second every day. And yeah, I really appreciate your time and your wisdom and sharing it with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Always fun.
Thanks for being with us today on Digital Mindfulness. Remember, you can connect with us on both Twitter and Facebook. And if you like the show, don't forget to reach out and thank Cesar himself. Remember, if you want to find out more about what we're doing, and especially Digital Mindfulness Live, reach out to me on lawrence@digitalmindfulness.net and I can help you out. See you all next week.